record. Okay. 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 Can you guys see my screen okay now? Someone just follows through in the chat. Okay.
Yep, sure.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay, great. You can see I can see your chat as well now too. Okay, great. So basically Google Classroom is part of Google Apps for Education. And some of you may know all this, but I'm going to assume just a basic working knowledge of this platform. Okay. And if you do want to, if towards the end of this, if people have more kind of individualized questions, I'm happy to hang on line a little bit longer and go through individual questions. And of course, I'm happy to follow up and work with you guys individually. Let me just admit everybody. Okay. After this. And this won't be the only session we have regarding Google Classroom. Yumiko is going to follow up as well with another session. Okay. So let me go ahead and get started. Google Classroom. The best way to get to Google Classroom is you simply go to your Gmail. Okay. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to go through the basics so you can see kind of what this looks like. I know there's a wide level of competencies here. Okay. And bear with me because I'm still admitting people into the waiting room. Okay, so this is my Gmail. And if I start here and I go to these dots, Google Classroom is part of your Google Apps here, okay? So you have a Google Classroom. You'll need a Gmail account to start a Google Classroom. And if you're a part of a university or a K through 12 organization, some organizations already have Google Apps for Education set up, and they have student accounts. So for example, at Hunter College where I work, we have a School of Ed Google accounts that's run by the School of Ed, and it's FERPA compliant, and we use it to submit videos of teaching. We use it for all sorts of things, but it's not mined for data from Google. So it's FERPA compliant, and it's okay to use. In New York City, which is where we're based, the Department of Ed has many schools have their own Google app accounts. So for example, my daughter goes to a school named East Village Community, and instead of at gmail.com, it ends at eastvillage.evcs.com. But it's also a FERPA compliant account. So you might want to first check to see what your institution or organization is using to see if they actually have a Google Apps for Education account. If they do, you can set up the system through them. If they don't, you can also use a Gmail account and invite users in that way. I'm inviting some more people in. Okay. So I've been using Google Classroom at Hunter for many years, and when I was a K through 12 teacher, I also use Google Classroom with my middle school Ls. But basically, these are classes, and if I go here, I see my classes, and I can see actually all my archive classes here. If I went here, and you see this goes back for many years. So the nice thing about Google Classroom is everything is archived. So I can go back to 2017 and I can pull materials from this class, and I could message these students. There's still sometimes students will actually email me and they'll say, hey, can I have access to that material back from our class in September of 2017? I need access to that assignment. Okay, so everything you do in Google Classroom is archived. And let me go show you what a current class looks like. Okay, so basically you have 4 main tabs here. Okay, you have your stream tab, which is where you post messages. When you post a message in the stream, it goes to everybody in your class. So you see here, I have some announcements. I had a Zoom class last night with my class, and this was just a general announcement on something that they needed to do. The announcements, the stream is organized by date. Okay, so last night we had a Zoom that's here, and I'm just posting little things here for them. And this goes back to the beginning of the semester. Okay, students can comment on the stream here, which is really helpful. One way that the stream has been helpful to me is that if I get a lot of emails from students around the same question, I just answer it in the stream. So for instance, I had questions about potential changes in state regulations with all that's going on. I don't have any answers, but I emailed what I knew in the stream, so I didn't have to return 15 or 20 emails because all of those people were in my class. Okay, so that's the function of the stream, and it's pretty useful way to communicate. I should say that if you have an iOS or Android device, the interface on the apps look exactly like this, and you can do everything from grade assignments to post on the stream on your iPhone or on your Android device. It's pretty easy. It's really useful for posting messages on the stream or messaging students directly, and it's a great way to communicate. Okay, so the classwork feature is where you organize your course content. Okay, and again, I know I'm speaking to a large audience within a lot of different contexts, but in teacher ed, with my graduate students, there's a lot here, a lot of resources around EdTPA. I teach a student teaching practical courses at Hunter. So I have all my course rubrics here. I have my sessions. This should actually, show you can drag and drop. Session 8 should be right after, I just did this the other day. So let me drop it here. The student view is a little bit different, but you'll see that this is what the students see primarily. And I'll just take you into I'll take you in. This was an in-person class, by the way. So some of these materials, if you in the future, if you have an in-person class and it's all in person and you want to organize your materials, this is a great way to do it. For example, I have my rubrics, my syllabi, other course documents here. These were documents that I had to refer back to over and over. I went completely paperless in this course. I still hand out things time to time that are extra important. Students submit all assignments through here. So for example, observation 1 assignments, students turn everything in here via Google Docs or via Word, and I can grade the assignment here. So if I wanted to grade an assignment that was recently turned in, I could go to this student, for example. There were 6 artifacts that needed to be turned in with this assignment. Everything is here. Her paper is here. I could leave comments by just highlighting and commenting, and the student would be able to see that. Okay. So when the student logs, she would then get an email that said a comment has been left on the paper, and the student would actually be able to see what was left there, the comments that were left. Okay, and you see here, I could actually assign a numerical grade, based on a rubric or however I wanted to do it, and I can leave a comment for the student. Then I would return the work here. Okay. So I guess I'm trying to keep my thinking organized and what I think might be helpful for you. So I've showed you kind of an overview of how Google Classroom could be useful, particularly in the university context. I've showed you some of the major features in terms of how work can be submitted. Okay.
It was received today.
And let me show you how content can be organized. Okay. So some people are not muted here. So do me a favor, guys. There's a lot of people in this training. If you're not muted, can you just mute yourself, okay? So we don't hear background noise. Okay. So you see I have my sessions here. Let's say, if it's gray, that means it has not been posted yet, okay? So here's some things I'm thinking about for next week. This is for an in-person class that went online because of our situation. I have an article I want them to read. I'm posting a document here with directions, and I'm asking them to read the article, share resources, share their plan for their classrooms that are coming up, and join for online office hours, okay? So I try to make this very organized for students. I generally post, the first thing here is directions, then a resource, and sometimes an assignment. Now I'm going to show you how you would post. I'm going to take you to another class, and to get to classes, you click here on the right, the three dots on the right. This is actually my online class. Okay, so I'm going to go to classwork. Both of my classes are now online, but I was teaching one online class before this happened. Okay, so let me scroll down to, I'm going to walk you through how to add an assignment here. Okay, and so I'm going to do this kind of theoretically. So first thing you would do if you wanted to, let's say we're going to make a session 9 folder. Okay, let me see, I have a few more people that are coming in. Okay, so you go to this create button here at the top, and if I click create, there's a couple different options. Okay, I'm assuming that most people here are new users to Google Classroom. So you're not really going to be able to use this reuse post, but just for the future, I think I should just talk about it for a sec. If you did have more than one class up and you wanted to reuse posts, you can easily do that. Okay, so I can go here, create, reuse, and I can choose. For instance, I showed you that NYTSOL resource list a few minutes ago, or if I wanted to go into that article that I posted from Ed Week, I could just do that and reuse, and it would create it. Okay, I'm not going to do that now. And I could even go back to any of my prior classes, anything that's not archived. Okay, or actually I could even go to the archive classes here. So it's a really nice feature to just organize information. If you do have an account through your institution, basically the space, I can speak for Hunter, but I think this is in general, the ed accounts are basically unlimited storage space. So we have, I don't know, many terabytes of storage space. So it really is kind of nice, because if you're anything like me, as far as your computer desktop is super cluttered, and space on your computer is always an issue. So what I do if I'm working with videos, I upload it to my Google Classroom or my Gmail, my Google Drive, essentially, and then I delete it from my desktop or hard drive. So it's kept in the cloud, and it's very useful in that way. Okay, so back to creating resources. So the first thing you want to do is create a topic. Okay, so let's say I'll just call this topic training. Okay, now it appears at the top. I can drag and drop this anywhere. Okay, so you want to think about, once you get a lot of materials in here, it can be a little bit overwhelming for students to find things. So you want to think about the way that you organize materials. Okay, one kind of just tip from my own anecdotal experience was, in prior semesters, I was labeling it session 1, session A, session B, session C. I don't know why, but a student was like, hey, why don't you just label it numerically? So that's a little bit more organized. So now if I do that, I always make sure that they're organized numerically and students can find things. Okay, but anything that you create will always start at the top. So say if I wanted to create a resource or a question, let's say a resource first. The difference between a material and a question is pretty obvious, but a material would be something like a reading, right? Like you have a PDF you want them to read, or a website. So let's say I'm posting a material. Okay, title, let's say reading for next week on how to stay calm and productive. Okay, so I would have a description here. You can add a link directly to your Google Drive. So going back to what I said a few minutes ago, if you don't have anything on your desktop and you keep everything in a Google Drive, for example, your readings, your videos, you could just link to your Google Drive. So if I go here, and this is actually a slideshow my daughter created about her vacation. She's 8. Let's just imagine I wanted to do this. I wanted to attach this. Let's say this is a Google slide. I can tell by this icon here, a Google slide on this topic. It was a training. Okay, it's not, but now this is added, and then I would go here, and I can add additional resources. it's really unlimited. You know, sometimes I'll have 5 or 6 resources, and then I could message, if I'm working with more than one class, if I wanted to post this to say both of my classes this semester, I would check this. I don't, so I'm not going to. I can give it to specific students. Okay, if I uncheck this, I can just check, say, I just want to give it to these guys. Let's keep it at all. Pretty important, I think, something that a lot of people miss is that they don't organize their materials under topics. And I do think that because it can be a bit overwhelming from a student perspective, if you go into Google Classroom, they see too many things, they don't need to know where to find things. They need to know where to find things. So really, you want to think about just keeping the information presented in a kind of nice, professional way. So we just created a topic, training. So it's alphabetized. So I'm going to go to the bottom, training. I can post it immediately, or the really nice thing is you can save a draft or you could schedule. So if you want to get ahead in your work, I often do this, say, for instance, in my online class, I'm teaching 2 online classes now, but one, I post everything by Tuesday at midnight. So students know that the module for that week will be up Tuesday, basically end of the day or by midnight. They know that they have to complete it by the following Sunday. So I highly recommend, however you organize your content, just being really clear and concise about when you will post and when the assignments are due, because it keeps everybody moving on, and you can go on the day after you say it's due and you could check to see if they've done the work or not. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But I don't want to post this because I don't want my students to be messaged and see this, my daughter's vacation slide. But let's say I would schedule it, let's say tomorrow, and then I'll delete it later. 8 a.m., you can put any time. Okay, we're gonna schedule it. So now I know here it's grayed out. Okay, and if I want to go in and add additional resources, so sometimes you're building out a unit of study and you're not sure which resources you're going to include, you just go edit and say I wanted to add another link, you know, okay, times, and you could go on and on. Okay, schedule, it's scheduled for the same date. I can change that at any time. Okay, so I've showed you how to add a resource, or a material rather. Adding an assignment is pretty similar. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that now. If you wanted to add an assignment, you just click the assignment, you put in the title here. Okay, you would put in your instructions here, and you can add a lot of different materials here. If you can add a Google Drive assignment, you can add a link, you can add a resource. And when you do add an assignment, you can add a rubric. Sorry, let me minimize this. You can add a rubric for that assignment. Same process, you would post it under your session, okay? You can add a due date, which I think is really helpful for students because when in their stream, they see upcoming due dates. So if you don't add a due date, it will say no work due. But let's say this was due the 31st. And let's make it midnight, okay? You can add a weighting category, okay? So I'm gonna put this in class participation, points 100, and again, you could select certain students, okay? So I'm gonna schedule this so this actually doesn't post. Let's say the 24th, schedule. Okay, so now I have an assignment here and I have a reading, okay? You can add a question, and it's really the same process. So okay, short answer, multiple choice. Very similar if you've ever created a Google form, it's almost identical. So you give them instructions here and the same thing. Okay, so you due dates, topics, and you would ask basically. And then when you ask that question to students, you see there's this box here. Students can reply to each other or they could edit their answer. So students can see each other's answers. And I used this last week. I'll show you, I actually use this. Gonna go out of this now. I have too many windows open. I'm getting myself confused. Okay. So I have to finish this process. The question won't be included in the overall grade. This is because I didn't assign a participation category. So that's good that it lets me know. Let's just say class participation schedule tomorrow. Okay. So I know that this here, I can tell I didn't assign it a topic. So I want to drag and drop it here. So now my module is starting to be built out. You can see I have a theoretical assignment, I have a question, and I have a resource. Okay. All of these topics appear on the right side. Okay, so if I go, this is alphabetized, so if I go to the bottom, I expect to see, actually the top, I expect to see training. If I move this, let's say I was doing this sequentially. Now in our semester, we're at week 9. So imagine this is week 9. I could even change this to, let's say, okay, so session 8, session 9, and then it would appear on this side, you know, and this is, the students see this. So this is a way for them to kind of skip ahead and keep track of what they do and what has been learned in your different resources. You could see here, if you're working in an environment where you have more than one teacher, or you're actually, imagine, for me, it's working with other adjuncts that are teaching the same courses. So Dominica and Lauren are my friends and colleagues at Hunter. Both are actually awesome K through 12 teachers and nice TESOL members. And I have them as teachers here in the course. I just invited them in, okay? And they can see all of my materials, and they take some of my materials for their own courses. So if you're working with multiple people, this is a great way to share resources, make sure everybody's on the same page in terms of distribution of resources. And all of my students are here. And this is I mentioned earlier, you can email from the stream, okay? If I message them here, okay, this would go out to all students. Again, I could select some and not all. I can add a resource here. Maybe I just wanted to give them an announcement. I could post, I could schedule a post, as I showed you. But I could also do that here, okay? So sometimes, like in the situation we're in, there's some information that's really critical. For example, this past week, I wanted to make sure I touch base with all of my students to make sure no one was left behind, that I heard from everybody, that everybody's okay, and that I wanted to let them know that they could still continue with this course and receive credit, and that we're just going to adapt the material. So I hadn't heard back from some students. So I messaged them in the stream, and a lot of them replied, but I didn't hear back from some of them. So this would be one way I would email them, right? So actions, email. If you want to drop people from the group, you can also do that. Remove. I've never used the mute button, but basically that's for like if someone's causing an issue on Google Classroom or isn't supposed to be there. You can email the students directly from here. And a really nice feature that has just been added, I think late last year, is Google Classroom has allows you to weight your grades. Okay, so this goes back to the beginning of the semester. You can see, and basically you have every assignment, you have the point value, you have the grades that the students have given, their averages here. For example, I'll just take you into one welcome survey. This was a pass-fail assignment. So you see their attachments here, and if I click on it, you can actually go in here and you'll see comments. Lauren McCoy is a co-teacher here. This is just a welcome survey. She's just thanking her for submitting it. And that's there, okay? And students also see, they could see the instructions for the assignment. Okay, so this goes back into assignment instructions. If you kind of get lost in Google Classroom, like sometimes I'll find myself like, wow, I have a couple windows open. What am I doing here? You always click back to this original class, and then it kind of is a little reset. So if I go into grades here, you know, it takes me back to that same place, okay? So that's pretty much an overview. By the way, you know, I don't claim to be an expert at this. It's just, it's a way I kind of organize my classes. I like Gmail. It keeps me organized. I've always liked Google Apps. I used it when I used this when I was a K through 12 teacher when they had a beta version. And I think this will be one good thing of that comes out of this, you know, kind of tragic situation that we're in, is that a lot more people are going to be familiar with Google Classroom. So I know, I realize this is kind of just by the diversity of this group, the names that I'm seeing, and I know there's downstate and upstate and people from the city here, that this is not going to serve everybody's needs, but my goal was to provide you with an overview of Google Classroom. Now I'm going to go to the chat, and if you add in questions here, I'll go ahead and try to address some of those questions. I'm going to put my email in the chat. I think you might have it from the invite, but let me stop sharing the screen. Hold on. Let me see how to do this. Stop share. Okay. So I'm going to put my email here, and if anybody wants to follow up, you know, just on the phone, or we could have a private Zoom conversation, I'd be more than happy to kind of work with you guys individually with questions and think about your institution and how you might make this work at an individual level, because I know this is kind of a broad overview here. I'm going to scroll back in the stream and see if there's any questions, and please do post questions here. Okay. I'm going to go back to the beginning here. Okay, so I'm seeing like greetings from Queens. Hi. Okay, hey everybody. ASA College. Okay. So one student asked, do you need permission from the parents to use Google Classroom? Yes, you do. Anytime you establish a Google account, a Gmail for anybody that's under, I think like 13 or 14, you need to have a parent account. And you would need to have a parent email. So there's a process to do that. Google kind of walks you through that. Sorry, guys. By the way, this is not my main computer. I'm sort of hindered in technology. My daughter spilled a big glass of water on my my main Mac, so I'm using an old computer, and the texts are showing up. Okay. Let me just stop that from happening real quick. Okay, force quick. I'm on a conference right now, baby. I love you. Okay. So that shouldn't pop up. Okay. So yes, you do need permission from parents. From what I understand, you know, this is different schools. The variety of technology is pretty varied. It's everything from, you know, take-home packets in the early grades to mandatory use of Google Classroom. Some teachers are even doing synchronous classes. Okay, second question. Is there a way for the text on the stream to be translated into various languages? I don't know. Hey, Lori, would you mind not texting, because it's appearing on my screen when there's like 40 people on right now, and they're seeing all the text. So to your sister, thanks so much. I don't know. I will find out about this. This is pretty important for our group. I've never done this because I only use this for a K through 12, and I'm kind of just ramping up my knowledge this week. So I will get back to you on this question. I don't know of a way, but I'll get back to you. Yes, all students need a Google account. You must have a Gmail account to do this. The best way to do this is if go through the school and find out if they have a Google Apps for Education account at their school. I can tell you in New York City, what I've heard is that all schools have the ability to create Google accounts, but if you as a field supervisor or faculty member want to be invited in, you have to have a Department of Ed email address. So your districts might have different policies on that. I would touch base with your school, but to answer your basic question is yes, you have to do this with Google because it's relying on Google Drive and these other things that I kind of mentioned, okay? I think that this is just my opinion. I think that this, in my eyes, this is something that is pretty intuitive, and that if you know how to use email, you could figure this out. There are so many resources on this online. If you wanted to just simply, you know, go to Google and you type in how to set up a Google Classroom, there's so many resources from Google. So I think there are online teachers guides, and I expect that schools are kind of guiding students, or teachers are figuring this out really quick, either with help of a colleague or just by learning it on their own. This is an open question. I mean, there's not really language support in Google Classroom. It's just a learning management system. It's a way to organize information. I mean, obviously you can use this in sync with other resources, tech resources that help low-level English learners, for example, Google Translate, but you know, that's relying on them having some native language ability. I don't know the answer to that question, Brittany. That's from Kayan. It is a great use it is better for higher ed, but it's also, I do see a lot of K through 12 teachers beginning to use this, especially for advanced ELs. You might want to check, I'm sure you guys are aware of this, but I can tell you the situation in New York City, schools are giving out laptops, even in higher ed. Hunter has a laptop loaner program for all of our students. So these are things that I wasn't even aware of. I didn't know that Hunter was loaning technology. The president apparently sent out a couple messages that any student that needs a computer can get one. I know that's happening in the K through 12 environment in New York City too. A lot of my colleagues and friends teach in schools, and early in the week, part of their work was handing out resources, including laptops. Some ways for the solution. Mobile phones are a solution. Okay, so I'm seeing some of your comments here. Hi, Alexandra. Good to see you too. I have been using Google Classroom for probably 7 years, since the beta version. This chat is recorded. Google Translate could help. Okay, and the stream is up to date. I can't unmute everybody because it's going to be like 40 some people talking at once. But are there any questions here? How many students can participate? I don't know. I haven't hit a limit, and I've seen this with really large groups. So I can find that out. There's a way for me to save this chat pretty easily, and I'll go back to that question, the question about translation. So I've given you my email address. I realize that this doesn't address all your needs because of the diversity of your working context, but I hope that it just showed you some of what Google Classroom can do, and some potential for Google Classroom. Again, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to kind of hop on the phone with you and have an individual Zoom conference, and I could kind of walk you through how this might be useful for your context, or brainstorm some ideas for you. Are there any other questions? I'll wait, just pause, give some wait time. I'll find out about CTLA. I gotta ask Laura about that. John, I'll come back to this question right now. How do you save assignments for a later date? So you would save assignments for a later date if you created a draft of an assignment. So that could mean a lot of different things. So a lot of times I'm just working from my desktop. For example, I'll have a folder. I'll show you. I'm going to share screen again for a second. Okay, so I think you can all see my screen share now. John had asked, how would I save assignment? That's my daughter, by the way. John had asked, how would I save assignments for a later date? I have working folders on my desktop. This is just one from the past couple of days, but online class. And if I go in here, I have week 8, and I would have my draft materials here, including assignments. And then I would just go to create assignment, and I would do it from the desktop and post that resource. For example, if I go to week 8, you'll be able to see some of these. Scroll all the way down to week 8. You'll see week 8 direction. That's the resource that's on my desktop. I've asked them a question here. I know there's a question because of question mark. 2 turned in. Let's see if we'll take a peek at their assignment publicly. So I asked my students what's their plan for their virtual environment. This student is using Seesaw, and this is an assignment. Obviously, it's a question. This was the question, and these are the student responses. So I could reply to them individually here. So these students have not turned it in. So that's how you would save assignments. I hope that answered your question, John. Okay. CTLE proof. I don't know the answer to that. I got to ask Laura Becker about that. Email me for CTLE. Denise, email me and I'll connect you with Laura. I know she said in one of her emails how to do it, but I got to dig that up. Okay. So are there any other questions, guys? Okay, I'm going to type my email again so you don't have to search through the screen. This is my Google email address. Okay. Okay. So that's about it, guys. And thank you so much for joining me. Please email me. I'm happy to kind of help you get set up again and do everything I can to make this a success for your classrooms and your environments. You guys have a great week and be safe. For the 2 people that just came in, welcome. We're going to close out now, but this is recorded and I'll send a link. It actually probably comes from Laura, but we'll send a link. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. I'm pleased that so many people were able to join. Take care.
Hello? Hello?
Oh yeah, that's intense. I can see it on your back.
Sorry, I got disconnected. Did someone get the information on how to get credit for this class?
About what?
About how to get credit for this class?